Welcome to Chinese news.
Comes from China. 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 It's not racist at all, no.
Chinese news! Real quick, Guns, are you recording yet? Are you back on?
No.
Online? Why don't you just pop open the voice recorder on, or a QuickTime recorder if you're on Mac.
Well, the problem is that I can't get a full feed of everything. It might as well use the. I
this is going to be.
I see what you're saying.
I was going to say you could at least get. I think you could get just one big fat feed of something natively, but I don't know. Just a thought. I cringe at the thought of having to put up the live feed as the podcast.
No, well, it happens every once in a while. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. Time for some Chinese news, folks. This is coming from, oh my gosh, so many pop-ups. It's incredible. Oh, it's coming from Forbes.
Yeah.
The headline is, "The Chip War with China is just getting started." Dun, dun, dun. Last week, the Biden administration announced new restrictions on American companies selling advanced semiconductors to China, including restrictions on U.S. citizens and residents working for chip plants in China. The impact on our America's most dangerous opponents since the end of the Cold War was almost instantaneous. Ooh. What's up with that weird typo, Forbes? According to Bloomberg, Americans working in Chinese plants are already leaving. If ever there was a strategy to stop a high-tech rival in its tracks, this was it. Interestingly enough, all that's really happening is finally we're doing what China has been doing to us for decades. This strategy, however, is not original with the Biden team. When I was at the National Security Council, the Trump administration was using the direct product rule that can prevent companies anywhere in the world from selling products using U.S. products or technology subject to export controls to slow Chinese telecom giant Huawei's attempt to take over the global 5G market. Now Biden is using it to prevent even allied countries like South Korea from selling advanced chips to Chinese firms or organizations engaged in AI and supercomputing activities. Hey, well, if it was racist when Trump did it, what does that make it when Biden does it, guys?
Ice cream, baby. Just ice cream.
It's Together with the CHIPS Act, Congress passed to devote $52 billion in subsidies to, quote, revitalize the domestic semiconductor industry and spur innovation, and Taiwan's leading chip manufacturer, TSMC, agreeing to build a major new plant in Arizona. America's semiconductor industry should be back on track, right? Not so fast.
Oh, boy.
Whoa, Forbes. I've written many times in this space how semiconductors are the building blocks of the modern digital economy, powering the internet and providing the foundation for critical technologies such as artificial intelligence, 5G, quantum, robotics, and autonomous vehicles. They are also an essential tool in our national security arsenal, animating every major weapon and defense system, as well as their command and control architecture, including GPS and space. Space. I've also written how China is going full speed to build a world-beating microchip industry to become the superconducting colossus of the 21st century. In this regard, there still remains the glaring problem of China's aggressive moves towards Taiwan, the world's manufacturer of 90% of high-end advanced integrated circuits. As my Hudson colleague Mike Pompeo and Vivek Ramaswamy wrote in the Wall Street Journal, a disruption of Taiwan's semiconductor industrial base could trigger a massive and protracted economic meltdown, one that would have a devastating impact on our semiconductor sector as well. So let me see here. This is by Arthur Herman, in case anybody's wondering. I'm adding my own theatrical flair to his work here. But Our over-reliance on foreign sources for microchips, even from trusted allies such as Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea, is only part of a broader issue. America's over-reliance on global supply chains that are all too vulnerable to disruption, including in time of war. So he's bringing this... he's doing a very interesting job at characterizing the stage of this economic war with China, especially in light of Taiwan and how we can see it going a la Ukraine. Because remember, this is all about, in the same way that Ukraine it seems to be revealing itself as a war, mainly spurred on by the United States and NATO to create an economic situation where the United States becomes a primary exporter of liquid natural gas to Europe instead of Russia, sort of the most hostile takeover of an entire energy industry, or market rather. Same with Taiwan and microchips, except for a little bit in reverse. All this isn't meant to depress us. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a bit there. Oh, no, there it is. Consider the materials needed for manufacturing. Then he goes into copper, which, China is sort of the biggest customer of copper in the world, but you've got aluminum, tungsten, all sorts of crazy stuff.
Tungsten being the material that was used for the rods of God.
Yes, the tungsten rods. That's right. China is also the world's largest producer of aluminum, or aluminium, if you're in the UK, at 36 million tons. The U.S. only rates number 9 in the global producer ranking. China is also the world's main supplier of tungsten. The third largest producer of tungsten is Russia, China's ally. There's a similar story with China's monopoly of materials for lithium batteries, the power source for all those electric vehicles the Bidens want to buy, or the Bidens want us to buy, rather, while China produces more than 95% of the world's raw gallium. When was the last time you thought about gallium, Gons?
I don't know, probably some game. Sounds like a fake thing. And there goes Basil once again. We have lost him. Once again. We will continue here. Gallium is the metal used in making chipsets for electronic devices such as computer motherboards or portable phones. Yeah, pretty important there. All this isn't meant to depress us about our chances of competing in the high-tech war with China. It's an urgent call for a strategy for creating a reliable and secure materials supply chain for our reviving semiconductor sector, while spurring innovations that will make us less rather than more dependent on supply chains outside our control. Interesting. It's an urgent call for a strategy for creating a reliable and secure materials supply chain for our reviving semiconductor sector while spurring innovations. This is it. This is sort of the key. The idea of China moving in, stealing all of our information, all of our development, our technology, and at a certain point, they have come to the world stage as sort of another power, equal in might with the U.S., but now it's time to divide and have war, I guess, especially in the sort of economic sense when it comes to resources and specifically semiconductors here. But this is, again, part of the infrastructure of the 21st century here, as they are talking about. But, it's funny because this is exactly what Trump was kind of talking about 4 years ago. But when he was doing it, it's all racist and whatever. But now that Biden's doing it, it's good. It's American. It's funny. Biden's the one bringing back all the jobs to the U.S., or at least manufacturing back to the U.S., So anyway, it's about working with allies to make their supply chains less vulnerable as well, and understanding the global stakes now centered in what could happen in the Taiwan Straits involves more than invoking military power. Important though that is, it requires a long-term focus on what we make at home and how we make it and where its materials come from. Yes, it does. Today, the U.S. has become too dependent on global supply chains stretched around the world. We're looking increasingly like Great Britain in World Wars I and II. You know, this is another point that crazy conspiracy theorists have been saying for like 30 years. Like, yeah, there's all this exporting, which it really began in earnest in the 90s. I think Bill Clinton was really the one that sparked the sort of outsourcing, and especially China. I mean, there was some stuff before, but that in earnest in the 90s, mid 90s is when we started to really export manufacturing jobs and everything else. And a lot of people that were labeled conspiracy theorists were warning about, hey, this is not good. This is sort of destroying our ability to produce. And, you know, we're in less of a position to, trade and do things like that. So, but now that it's gotten to the point where it is a split taking place, now it's we look like Great Britain during World War I and II. Despite Britain's vaunted overseas empire, the island nation discovered that a determined enemy, namely Germany, could literally bring it to the brink of starvation by serving its far-flung supply chains for everything from raw materials for manufacturing to basic food and fuel. Fortunately, Great Britain had a powerful ally to act as its supply chain savior, namely the United States. We don't. It's going to be entirely up to us and our politicians to restore our economic independence from energy to the raw materials that are essential for a strong and secure high-tech economy. And that's it right there. We're in a stage, I would say, with in the divide and conquer roadmap, especially with China. China has gotten to the point where they can really bring the heat now. And we need to have that the teams being selected at a much quicker rate in terms of the world stage. And that's where we are. We're going to see more tensions. And, China's not going to want to necessarily pull off some kind of violent insurrection. I'll use that word in Taiwan. I think because they are sort of the longer term peoples, their agenda is very much like the lizard overlords. They're looking centuries. They're looking at long term. They're not necessarily looking for the short gains. And so if they can avoid some kind of physical altercation, then they will. But as we reported on last episode, we reported on this CHIPS bill thing that Biden, the CHIPS Act that Congress passed last episode. And I mentioned how it's very much like World War II, when the U.S. choked out supplies, mainly, I think it was fuel, to Japan, and Japan was forced to maintain their honor, to attack Pearl Harbor. They were baited into it, and I feel like this is kind of the same thing here. They're like, hey, we're just going to keep poking the bear, or in this case, I guess it's the China. So the panda. Oh, am I going to get banned for that? I might get banned for that. I'm joking. Joke. Just a funny joke. Haha. So it could be that they're trying to do the same thing where they strip China of access to certain items that would help them develop their technocracy. And if they want to control Taiwan, they're going to have to intervene militarily, which I think the New World Order head types are just fine with. They're probably like, well, yeah, if you want to go into a physical altercation, let's do it. We got the lasers from the firmament there. So yeah, try China, try. And so, I really think this is just more staging, more flexing, and but it is impactful because we really have relied so much on China to build out our infrastructure here in the U.S. that this split, which is a long time coming, kind of like the yay thing, didn't happen overnight. It's been happening for a while. It's just come to a head where the rubber's meeting the road, so to speak, with the actual application of the technology to build out the infrastructure. So there you go. All right. Where's Basil? Is he gone? He's still not around. I don't know where he is. Great. This is fantastic. I feel like I'm being attacked. Not by Basil, but just something in the air.